Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new live stream. I'm Ariel from Appfigures. What you're hearing behind me is not a lawnmower, it's a lot of construction that's happening. I tried with all my might to make it end. I tried to make the microphone not capture it as well. I tried to change my studio, none of that worked, so I just decided to get started. I see there are a lot of questions in the chat already. I am behind. It's a weird morning, but we're gonna get started, and I'm gonna use all the knowledge I have, my 15 plus years, actually 16 plus years, in mobile apps to answer your questions. But before we do that, we can't do without tradition. What's in your cup and where are you from? I'm here in very loud New York City, drinking me some Earl Grey tea. I did not have time to put mint in it, but usually I like to put mint in it. What's in your cup and where are you from? Let me know in the chat below. The noise comes and goes, so hopefully it will just go and never come back. We'll see. Someone's saying use crisp for the sound. I don't know what crisp is, but I will look it up when I have a few moments. Also, my chair is too low. Let's fix that. Yeah, there we go. All right, so it's one of these mornings where usually I'm extremely prepared, and today I'm like 97.7% prepared. So bear with me. I got some tea, though. I have quite a bit of espresso in my cup. There's a lot of espresso in here. So I'm ready to go. I'm wired, and the noise comes and goes, so we should be good. What's in a cup? Where are you from? I see water in the UK. I see Bangladesh. I see a lot going on. Awesome as always. One day, I've been saying this for a while, but I'm going to make a map appear on the screen, and you can see where everyone is from. We have that for the side, and it shows where everyone is, and it's just wonderful. I will do the same for this. Ooh, a beer in Uganda. Interesting. Okay. What time is it there? What time is it here? 10:39. We're only 9 minutes behind. Could have been worse. The noise severely subsided, I would say. Water in Poland. Nice. No water in the bottle. Need to refill. Go and refill. Water is so important for you. What else do we have? Tea in Jersey. Green tea in Jersey. Nice. Jersey is like, well, here. Alrighty, so I think we're all in. I don't want to slow this any more than I have to. We're going to answer some questions. I don't remember one time where I had so many questions ready in the chat before I even started. And add the starting delay, and everything is now much, much, much more exciting. So let's get answering. That's the only way I can see it. Okay, so we'll start. And if you can't hear me well, please let me know. I made some changes to the microphone, and I think it's a little bit lower than normal. Mostly trying to make the noise go away, but hopefully that's working in some capacity. I'll just talk like this. Okay. Ooh, a lot of water. I like that you're all healthy. That's great. I mean, tea is not too bad, but water is also very, very good. Okay. So let's see. What do we have? We have a lot of things. Okay. Where do I even begin? There's so many questions. Okay. We'll begin in the beginning, as one should. Let me bring up questions on the screen, and let's get started. So Tony started really early. Well done, Tony, for coming in and just asking questions right out of the gate. Does this work? No, this does not work for some reason. Okay, for some reason, my answers are not, my questions are not coming up on the screen, so I'm just going to read them. It's one of those days, you know? So Tony is asking, adding new keywords that you end up not ranking for does affect the previous keywords you were ranking for? Question mark. Every keyword you fail to rank in for can affect the rest. And I think what this is asking is, should you get rid of keywords that are not working for you? And the answer is absolutely. So if you rank for, if you put a keyword into your name, your subtitle, your keyword list, your short description, your long description, whichever store you're on, and it doesn't do anything, it takes up space for something that could be doing something. So realistically, you don't really want to keep it in. Now, is it really hurting you? Yes, kind of. It doesn't hurt you in a sense that Apple's not going to penalize you and Google's not going to penalize you for having a keyword that isn't useful. But what will happen is, one, it's going to take the space of something that is, but two, it's going to devalue everything else. Because if you remember, it's all about focus. So what you give the algorithm, whether it's Apple or Google, what you give the algorithm is what the algorithm is going to assign 100% of the value it can assign to you 2. So if you give it 2 keywords, 50-50. If you give it 100 keywords, each will get 1, or 100 words. So ultimately, that's what you really have to focus on. I said focus, but this is really what it's all about. You have to focus on the things that work. Now, not everything you try will work. So realistically, what you do have to do is make sure that when you put something and it doesn't work, take it out. Give it enough time because you don't want to rush it. Give it 2, 3, 4 weeks. If nothing happens, kick it out, put something else in. That's why in the US, if you're optimizing on the App Store in the US, you want to use those sub-localizations that also get indexed in the US. What that does for you is it gives you more options to learn what's working and what's not working, and then you can potentially bring it into the US title, subtitle, and also your keyword list. So that's how I would do it. Okay, let's see. What's next? Brett is asking, how are you finding Apple's tags to be working? We're seeing mixed results, i.e. mileage tracker, driving, tag returning, running mileage trackers. How do you combat that through ASO strategy? Ooh, that's a good one. You can't for right now. And the reason is because ultimately we don't know enough. And I think we don't know enough as the people using this, and Apple doesn't know enough as a company producing this, because one, we're still technically in beta. If you remember, this is not available to the masses. But two, it's all so new. We don't understand how Apple's using the AI to create these. We haven't seen enough examples of that data in the wild. And so for right now, I think sit tight. Let's see what happens. I've said this in the past, in the last live stream and the one before it. I'm giving it about 6 months, so maybe a little bit before Christmas. That's not exactly 6 months, but we want to be ready for Christmas. So around November, Black Friday-ish, that's when I'm going to sit down and look through all the data. I will look through it as we get to that point, but that's really where I think we'll amass enough data to know how are these tags generated, what are the heuristics that Apple's using, do they actually have any real benefit? Because one of the troubles is these are great for end users to find alternatives ultimately to apps. They're less about discovery from scratch or raw discovery and more about discovery of additional things, what also fits. And so to your question, Brad, this is problematic because it means that it's going to be ultimately a way for them to find something else. And if that something else is totally irrelevant, I don't really know what that will do to a user. Will they completely drop off? Will they look to see if that thing that is on the screen maybe also is the same, even though the name and the icon and everything else don't suggest it? And that is going to cause a ton of friction. So for right now, I say just watch it and see what's happening. I imagine Apple will evolve this a ton over the next 6 months. If you've done any AI work, you know that none of this is straightforward. It's not linear code, and I imagine Apple knows this, and Apple will continue to refine until they get to a mode that they really like. And that's not going to happen in the next 6 months, so I foresee a ton of evolution for tags. I also see a ton of evolution for what tags mean and the way Apple does AI for keywords for custom product pages, which is seeing the exact same set of issues where the tags don't exactly align or the keywords that they generate don't exactly align. And that's going to be something we're obviously going to watch. Okay, let's see. Someone said that they spent a good part of the last 4 days watching all of my previous streams, and it was worth it. The best in a game. Thank you. Thank you for just saying that. Sometimes it's great to hear. And also, if you also think that and you're on this live stream, please give this video a thumbs up. It definitely helps, especially now when I'm running around like a crazy person trying to mute construction noises. So take a second. Just give it a like. Okay. Ooh, a question from Franklin, and this is kind of high level, I would say. So Franklin's asking for a brand new app. What ASO tactics deliver the fastest visibility boost in the first 30 days? Good question. Now, it might seem as a crazy question because what do? It's 30 days and you have nothing to show for. But what you do is you have to do keyword research. You have to really, really do that before you launch. And if you do that well before you launch, you will do really well. So let me give you an example. Let's see if this works. Hello, computer. Okay, so let's take, for example, let's see, what were we talking about before? We were talking about mileage, right? So let's see. If we go to mileage, and if my computer starts working, I lost my mouse again. Great. I don't even know what this is. Okay. No computer for a moment while I try to fix technical bugs. Continuing on the trend of today. But the example that I was going to give you is if you know your app is going to be a mileage tracker, let's say, you can go and look for all the mileage trackers and see what they're missing. And when I say what they're missing, I don't mean features and I don't mean benefits. What I mean is which keywords are opportunities, which keywords are not being targeted. So if you're thinking about mileage trackers, you might think mileage tracker is the keyword. And it might be, and it's probably big, and within your first 30 days, without any sort of additional marketing or outside of the App Store advertising, you're not going to get a lot of visibility for something that other apps that have been pointing at it directly and pushing hard for a long time are getting. So what you need to do is you need to go after the keywords they're not pushing towards. So we have a tool called competitor keywords, and with competitor keywords, what you can do is you can see all the keywords that any app of your choice is ranking in. So what I do is I go from Keyword Inspector, which I was about to show, which I will show in a few short moments once I find my mouse. And using that, I will find the top competitors in the space. Then I will look for other keywords that they're not ranking in, and I will see that by going through a bunch of apps, and then you start seeing gaps in the table. And once you see those gaps, you know where to go, and then you start seeing that they're not optimizing for the same keywords. So they might be optimizing for, between the noise and my mouse disappearing, this is a fun morning. So what they're optimizing for is, maybe my mouse ran out of battery. What a perfect moment for that to happen. Let's open my laptop. So between the keywords that they're not using, or the keywords that are only being used a little bit, and the keywords that are getting all of the love, essentially you should be able to find opportunities where someone is not actively optimizing for, and you could. And that's really the goal of, or that's really the key to what I would do if I needed to start with an app that's very, very, very new. Very long-winded way of saying my mouse ran out of batteries. Okay, so let me continue because we have even more questions. Franklin continued and asked, if I only have a small ad budget, where should I focus first? Apple ads, social ads, or content marketing? That's a good one. I wish I could bring all these on screen, and I will, and I'll try in a few moments. But this is a really good question because there is no right answer. The answer is potentially all of the above. It really depends on your app specifically and on your audience. So let me give you an example. Apple ads are really good for something that people are searching for. Mileage tracker, as per our previous example, is something that people are coming into the App Store and they're searching for. And we see that because it has a high popularity, or some variation is a high popularity. But something, I'm going to try and think of something else, a book generator, for example, or a tarot card app, which is surprising, may not be the kind of things that you're actively thinking about and saying, let me go to the App Store to tell my fortune. And so instead, what you would have to do is you would have to go elsewhere and put it in people's faces, a billboard in a sense. So it depends on your app. If your app is something that people are coming into the App Store and already searching for, or Google Play, then yes, you should use Apple ads. That's probably the best way to do it. If it's something that people are not looking for, and you'll see that by the popularity score not being high, or not a lot of keywords driving traffic, then you should go outside of the App Store, and that's usually TikTok these days. And TikTok, you can do ads or you can do content. That really depends on where you want to invest the money and the effort. So really, that's what I would do, and that's how I look at it when someone asks me that question. Now, the microphone is closer. Okay. Continuing. Let's see. Ashley is asking, targeting where you don't live. Targeting where you don't live, working on a seasonal app, spring, summer. If I launch today, I would need to target the Southern Hemisphere. The underlying question, how to market unfamiliar regions. Okay, so that we kind of have like a question and a half in one. And I think step number one is, if you're targeting for a seasonal app, you have to know your seasons. One of the easiest examples is a ski tracking app. If you have a ski tracking app, you know where the season is in every country or in every region. There's no reason not to target those regions, even if you don't live there, even if you don't speak the language. But what you have to understand is when it starts and when it ends. Those are the two most important pieces. And you have to make sure that the app also shows that you understand when it starts and where it ends. I had a live stream on a few years ago with someone who was talking about seasonality and how changing the icon just at the right time actually increased downloads, and not changing it back at the right time decreased downloads, which is very interesting. So step one is understand your seasons, and they might be a little bit different depending on the region, depending on the country. A season like spring or summer, that's a little bit easier. A ski season could also relate to other factors, could also relate to economical trends, could also relate to politics in a strange way because of travel and tourism. So as long as you understand those things, that's step number one. Step number two is make sure you're in the local language. We have translation on for all of our keyword reports. So any keyword that you see from a competitor in a different language, you can easily translate to yours. And if you like it, grab it and put it in your metadata. That's what I would do. And we invented this because I was helping people do ASO in Chinese. And I can kind of guess at other languages like Spanish and Italian and German. I cannot guess in Chinese. That's way beyond my skill set. And so automation did everything for me. And so all of our keywords will show you that. Make sure you go after keywords or after competitors in the local region. So not after US competitors and what they're doing in, let's say, China, or let's say Spain or Italy or Australia, and if this is the case, but instead go after the local competitors, the local winners of these keywords, see what they're doing, and then take that and use that. One thing that I will say, and that's something that trips up a lot of people, is that in many countries, English keywords are still dominant. And the reason for that is a lot of apps are starting with localizing into English, or they have all of their metadata in English, which makes sense. It's the default for pretty much everything. But in many countries, apps, even the bigger apps, don't localize. And so Apple and Google, they don't just invent words. They don't auto-translate unless, well, on the Google case, you force them to. And so for users in those countries, even if English is not the first language, the primary language, they're still going to have to look in English if they want to find things, which does add friction and is problematic. And you should localize because in some countries, they just won't. But when you do your keyword research, you will come across a lot of keywords that are in English in non-English speaking countries. And that's exactly why. It's not a bug. The system is not broken. That's just how it is. If you look at the top apps, a lot of them are in English because they don't localize. So that's something you have to be mindful of. And that's something I have to tell almost everyone who does international ASO. Okay, continuing. I have 2 mice now. That's how I solve that problem. Let's see. So someone's saying, have you noticed that Android Play Store rankings haven't fluctuated much since August 28th? Yeah, so there's something really strange about Google Play. The ratings kind of got stuck for a few weeks ago. There's a lot of weirdness in their reporting. They had this weird thing where they added some numbers in the dashboard, and we hounded them about it because it made everything confusing. And they said, no, this is fine. We did this on purpose. And then a few months later, they just decided to stop doing that and said nothing. And so something is definitely happening with Google Play. I don't exactly know what it is, but something is definitely happening on Google Play. I don't think this is something that will ruin everything or change everything, and I don't think the algorithm is changing. I think, if anything, it's some sort of architecture, infrastructure stuff happening under the hood, but I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see what the data shows. We've only had a few days of this weirdness. Okay. Philip is asking how to track CPP activities for specific path channels, search ads, web traffic, now that the numbers are polluted with organic App Store search. I don't have an answer for that yet, nor a way to do that in Appfigures, but when I will explain that in a video and also with a tutorial. So keep an eye out for that. Aaron is asking, what non-ASO factors that are out of our control have an effect on ranks? For example, how frequently users use your app or delete it? That's a rich question, and that's a very interesting one. I'm sure I can spend a whole hour just talking about that. But generally, and on the App Store side of things, The one thing that you kind of don't have the ability to control, but you do, is your conversion rate. So how many people see your App Store page and how many people actually download the app is something that Apple looks at. Sometimes it's a big factor, sometimes it isn't. It depends on a few other things. It's a part of the mix. But Apple, to my knowledge and in all of my testing, does not really care what happens after you download the app. And I think that's for privacy reasons and for other reasons so that they don't actually disclose. So on the App Store side of things, there aren't many things that you don't have control over, but there are some things that you don't have direct control over, like that conversion rate. Now, you do have control over it because you can change and optimize your screenshots. You can change and optimize your name. You can change and optimize your icon. So all those are things you can do to improve the conversion rate. And that's something that I'm working on a guide for. I've been doing a lot of screenshot-related teardowns and CPP teardowns, and obviously that's kind of the natural evolution. But on Google Play side, you do have a lot of things that you kind of have control over again, but not directly. So the uninstall rate is incredibly important. I've seen this firsthand. It's ugly if you do it wrong. So the crash rate is also incredibly important. And what that means is that if someone downloads your app and then immediately deletes it, you will get penalized by Google, and you'll get penalized harshly. If that happens at scale, your ranks are going to disappear, and clawing back out of that is going to be very unpleasant. So don't do that. The same thing, so uninstalls and crashes. You have control over both. You have control over crashes because you're building the app, test it before you push it out. You're also building the app and you're also optimizing. So if you optimize for the wrong keyword, or if you're driving traffic from a campaign that is loosely targeted, that could happen. People will download it, be like, that's not for me. That's not what I wanted. What is happening? Delete. And when that happens, you know you did something wrong. So don't do that either. Those are kind of the main things that are there. On Google, there's one more thing. Google reads your reviews and extracts keywords from reviews. The one challenge with that is that competitors can pollute your keywords. And so competitors can buy fake reviews that have bad keywords, and those bad keywords can misalign, and those bad keywords can influence your ranks and then lead to users getting your app for reasons that are not necessary, and then they download it and delete it, and boom, everything hurts. I've seen that happen to one app at scale, and it was really, really bad. I tried to help them with all the knowledge that I have, and it's just one of those things that you can't undo. You have to build out of. You have to rebuild the foundation and build on top of it and build on top of it. So if that's happening to you, make sure that you flag those reviews. Obviously, it's not the bestest of ways to do it, but it's a way to tell Google, hey, something is happening. And if it's happening at scale, go and try to talk to Google. It's not easy. It's not the kind of thing that happens that actually fixes things or immediately. But if you catch it and as it's happening, then that should give you a little bit more flexibility to fight it. That's kind of the idea. Okay, let's see what's next. What's next? Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm all over the place. Okay. Okay, Leonardo is back, and Leonardo is asking, saying hi. Hello, Leonardo. How about some good Google Play growth tips today? Metadata, ads, tags, etc. Let's do that. Let's talk about Google Play, something I don't talk about often. Let's see, what can I do in the span of a question? Span of a question. Okay, I got 3 things for you. I think you might know some of them, but to everyone else, to the viewing public, these should be the beginning steps for what to do on Google Play. So unlike Apple, Google Play cares about the description. Apple does not at all. They don't read it. They don't index it. But Google does. And so one thing that you have to be mindful of is what you're putting in the description. Google allows for thousands of characters in the description. And what that means is you have a lot of flexibility to add more color to your keywords, not just 100 characters that Apple does. The cool thing about it is they read it like a web page. They don't read it like all of the other metadata that is usually assigned to apps, like the name and the subtitle or the short description in the case of Google, which means the repetition of keywords is actually healthy, variations of keywords are actually healthy, and the ability to show Google that through text you can describe what the app is about is actually really, really important. more important than what many others have talked about. We have a tool specifically for this that will show you how to do it and also help you get the competitor information so you can extract some learnings from them. So one, look at the description and actually spend the time on it. It works with everything else. So just optimizing the description and not the name and not the short description is not going to be enough, but you do all of them, good. The second thing is, and this is a little bit more advanced, and that's something I'm working on for a guide that I've been promising for a long time and am working on. Google actually cares about the inbound links to Google Play that reference your App Store page or your Google Play Store page. And so what that means is that if you know how HTML works, there's a little label inside of the A tag. That label becomes a keyword. And so if your app is, let's say, a kids story app, and the link to it is kids stories, and you click it and you get to the App Store, Google will eventually index that page because Google indexes the entire web. They will find the link to Google Play. They will associate it with the tag or the label within the link, and they will actually assign it to your app. So from an SEO perspective, it's something that you want to do. You want to make sure that there are a lot of links pointing to your App Store page, not just your own website, but your App Store, your Google Play page in this case, that have the right keywords. In most cases, if someone links to you in a directory or in an article or something like that, they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to say, click here to get this app or this or something along those lines. And so a tactic that I've seen work is you look for all of the inbound links to your Google Play page, and then you ask whoever wrote them to change the label. It doesn't work all the time, and it's kind of a process to find the links. But if you do that, and if you have that sort of exposure on the web, that is going to be really helpful because Google wants more people to come into Google Play, obviously, just like Apple wants more people to come into the App Store, and that's what it does, so they read it. So do that. The other thing is watch your reviews. Because keywords are in reviews, you want to ideally have keywords in your reviews. There's no easy way to do this, and you have to play a little bit of you have to speak suggestively when you ask someone to review your app, or when you respond to reviews, you can elicit some sort of a specific response. Now, there are many tactics to do this. We can talk about this later. Email me if you want my thoughts on this, because it's going to take way too long to explain. But that's what I would focus on. So read your reviews, make sure there's nothing bad. Try to understand if there's anything good. Also, extract some of these keywords and try to optimize for them. You're already getting them for free from your reviews, so that's going to be useful. Focus on your description, really optimize that. It's not the kind of thing that you do once and forget about it, but if you do it enough times, you'll see what floats to the top. And again, we have all the tools to do that. And the last thing is watch your inbound links. Your inbound links are such a rich source of keywords that not many people are talking about because it's kind of an advanced technique. And in most cases, consultants who do this have been doing this for a long time. They're the only ones who are going to be talking about it, and they don't really want to expose their secrets. So that's what I will say about Google Play. Okay, continuing. Ooh, a good question from Jordan. So Jordan is asking, is App Store Launch Boost really dead? And the answer is yes and no and maybe. To give you some background on this, Apple used to, up until, I want to say a few months ago, give you a 7-day boost, which means that your app would show up in the autocomplete results for anything that is similar to your app. So it would gain exposure. Now, over the last few months, I've seen a ton of apps saying this is no longer the case. I had one app that I watched the release of also run into the same issue. And so I think realistically is, what realistically is happening is there's just too much going on, and Apple is trying to find other ways to add discovery. Apple did something really big, and that is start reading the screenshots of apps with AI to extract keywords from them, and they do it in a slightly different way than what they do with the name and the subtitle and the keyword list. And I have a whole guide on that in case you're curious and in case you want to know how to take advantage of it, which we'll link to in the description later. But I think Apple is shifting away because if you think about it, so many apps are launched every day. Thousands of apps are launched every week, which means that every minute there's probably an app happening, or every few minutes there are apps that are coming out, and there's no real way to boost all of them. The boost itself didn't work for multiple apps. It only worked for one app at a time, and the targeting in the App Store is still not extremely precise or good. And so most people would see the same app. Now, how can you give a 7-day boost to an app when thousands of apps are coming out? That's just impossible. So I think we reached the limit of what that boost can be. And either Apple deprecated it, or Apple really lowered what it could do and is trying to give more boost to more apps, because there is a little bit of a boost still happening. It's definitely happening. It's just not nearly as strong as it was before. So that's what I think is happening. And honestly, I think it's healthy. The boost, while nice, was just not something that can go on forever. Okay, continuing. Where am I? It's a good question. I did not lose my mouse this time, though. Mouse is still here. Okay. Chrysler is asking, does changing app screenshots periodically help downloads or makes them worse? It doesn't do either. So the mere act of changing the screenshots has no implication on your downloads. But if you do better screenshots, you will get more downloads. And if you do worse screenshots, you will get worse downloads. That's the idea. So optimizing your screenshots is always a benefit. You don't take any hits from changing it again and again and again, because this is going directly against your users. So the conversion from downloads is really your user seeing those screenshots and either wanting to download the app or not wanting to download the app. But it's not something that Apple or Google actually choose. The one difficulty or the one challenge is now Apple's reading your screenshots. So in addition to the screenshots being good for that conversion, they're also good for discovery, which means you should optimize them as often as you can. But just like anything else with keywords, give it a little bit of time. So don't change them too often. Apple's AI and Apple's way of indexing and the way the whole system works is not going to give you an instant sort of feedback in some cases. And so I would not change screenshots any more than twice a month. I think twice is pretty aggressive. If you need to because you want to try different things, you can. I would not recommend it because you're not going to get enough feedback. But that's what I would do. I would change them at least twice a month if you want that sort of cadence. If you want less, that's also fine. But I would say not more. Okay, where are we next? I still really want to bring up my screen. How do I bring up my screen? Okay, I found my screen. Haha. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. The noise is kind of gone, which is exciting. It'll probably come back, but nothing else. Okay, so my screen is back. I still can bring... I only have one screen, not two. Should I put the questions on the screen, or do you want to see me use the tools? Let's go with tools for now. Funny. We just got a question about that. So Jan is asking, can you take a look at reaction time keyword in US? My app ranks 7th, reaction time training, and it seems impossible to rank higher. It fluctuates around 7 to 10. Let's take a look. So mostly because I want to see if my screen works. So we're going to look at reaction time. What is reaction time here? And I, of course, lost my mouse again. A common occurrence. I think if I didn't lose my mouse, it would be so much easier. More mice. Okay. So reaction time. Reaction time. Let's see what happens. And for those of you unfamiliar, this is Keyword Inspector, our tool at Appfigures that one is my favorite tool, but shows you search results in real time and overlays information on top of them so you can see why things are happening. And I aim to bring all of the information that is important and relevant into this view as much as I can, obviously. So let's see what's happening here. Okay, reaction time, 188 results, 32 popularity. Wow. Okay, that's way more than I expected. Competitiveness of 59. That's amazing. I've not seen such low competitiveness on such a high popularity keyword in a long time. We're estimating 30,000 downloads on the top 10 apps, about $1,000, and that's because it seems like these apps are just not big enough to get estimates. So it's probably a little bit higher, but nothing crazy. So it's an interesting category, and I can tell you very easily why it's hard to rank. So one of the most important things is keyword placement. And keyword placement here is proper. You have reaction time in the name. It's upfront. Everything here is pretty good. I don't see any duplication, so this is, again, perfect. I don't see too many keywords, which means there's a lot of focus on reaction time. But the one thing that is problematic here is the number of ratings. So 9 ratings, while nice, is not enough. You can see that these apps, the top apps, have a few more. Now, when it's that low in terms of number of ratings, it's not hundreds, it's not thousands. Every rating counts. The algorithm just doesn't have a good way of knowing which app is more relevant. It will try, it will do the best that it can to show relevancy by using the name and then the subtitle, where the keyword placement really comes into play. But then it's really about those ratings. That's the way that it ranks, that it sorts the apps. So if you look at 31 versus 24 versus 20, you see that you need a little bit more. Now, in the case of hundreds and thousands, you have to get close, within, I would say, 20-30%. But the smaller that it is, the total number, also the bigger that ends up being, or the smaller the gap ends up being. So I think if you can double your ratings, even to 15, 20, I think you'll be in a very good spot. Now, I have to understand what's going on here. This does not make any sense, and we need to figure out why. So this app updated recently. It's kind of old, only 3 ratings. The average doesn't really matter. Same here. This is weird. I can take a look at this deeper, probably off camera, and it'll be easier. But my immediate thoughts are that it has probably no keywords in the keyword list, and only those keywords in the keyword list, or a very, very short set. It's as if the developer of Racer Reaction was like, I don't know what to do. Let me just put time. And that's it. And I think that's what's causing this. I have some ways of attempting to verify this. I will try to do it. Send me an email or leave a comment, and I will leave a comment later, because I think this would be a good one for other people who are interested in this to come back and see. So that's likely what's happening. I would boost the number of ratings, and you can do that by optimizing your ratings. The DPR on these is not ideal by any stretch over here, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get this to work. And the other thing you could do, prune your keyword list. If it's very, very messy, or there's a lot of stuff going on, try to reduce it. Send me an email with what's in your keyword list, and I'll give you some ideas, some thoughts. Okay. Let's go back to questions. My mouse started working again. Only kind of. I spoke too soon. Back to the other mouse. Okay. Leonardo is asking, should I include non-English prepositions in my keyword list for these other languages? Are they ignored? Is Apple algorithm smart enough? Yes, I'm pretty sure they're ignored. Apple does have a stop word list in all the languages. I know we even do that. So if we do that, Apple should definitely be doing that. Jan followed up on the question before about boost and said that he had a boost in August. So follow-up question for you, Jan, was the boost actually a full week? And do you see that over a full week, or was it shorter? Because I would imagine that's what's happening now. Okay, continuing. Wow, there are a lot of questions. So I was late to this, so it's on me. I will stay a little bit later and continue this for about 10 minutes. But then I'm going to answer all the questions that are in the chat in the comments right after this. So if you ask a question, I'm not going to get to it live. It will be in the comments. Come back in an hour, and you should see it. Which means also get all your questions in before the stream is over, because the chat ends when the stream is over. Okay. Philip is asking a question in multiple parts. Have used US secondary localizations for 2 years, iterated keywords, let them hold for periods, but not seen benefits. Long tail keywords seem to hold little value. Okay. Is there a better way to use secondary localizations or the new CPP keywords list a replacement? So CPPs are not a replacement. CPPs are actually kind of a competing sort of optimization tactic with the localizations, because Apple doesn't allow you to use the keywords from the localizations in them as easily, and I don't know what the impact is yet. So the question is, you optimize for certain keywords and it didn't work. Whether they're in a localization or not is secondary or irrelevant in this case, because really what you're saying is, I tried these and this did not happen, like this happened. So what I would do is scale back and try to understand, what did you try? Was it relevant? Were you able to compete in those keywords? Because it's not magic. If you put a massive keyword that you can't compete in into a localization, it's not magically going to just happen. It follows the exact same rules as everything else. And so that's where I would go. I would go back to the fundamentals and make sure that you're optimizing for the right thing. Just because in localization means nothing. I would also double check that you're in the right localization, but I imagine that you did that. So go back to the basics, to the foundation of what is a good keyword, what is a keyword that I can compete in. We have all those guides. I will link them later in the description if you need them. And that's how I would get started to understand why is something not working. And when people come to me and say my ASO is not working or ASO is not working, that's usually the case. The case is you optimize for something that is either too far out of reach because maybe you need 100 new ratings and you have 2, or maybe you need 1,000,000 new ratings and you have 1,000. And then try to understand also if you're optimizing properly, if you're focused on the right keyword, if it's relevant enough, if you are not confusing the algorithm when you do that. And after you do all those things, something should work. And if it doesn't, let me know. I'm always curious to see these things that don't work. Okay. So Philip is saying my last two apps. That's nice. Just working at it. Got a bunch of ratings in the last 30 days. Doesn't seem to make changes in rankings. Is conversion rate more important for rankings? So it really, really, really depends. And just like I said before, if something is not working, there's probably a reason. So the ratings alone should give you a nice, decent way to go up. But if the ratings were concentrated, let's say 1 day out of the 30, Apple ignores spikes. And so that's probably not going to be helpful. But if they were nice and steady and maybe steady growth or maybe just steady overall, that should give you a boost, especially if you're optimizing properly. So again, go back to the fundamentals. Did you have any keyword duplication? Are you defocusing the algorithm? Is there anything else that you're doing incorrectly with keywords? Maybe the placement is incorrect. Maybe you don't have the right keywords in your name. Maybe you're aiming for keywords that are just beyond whatever you got in the last 30 days. So I don't know what a bunch of ratings is, but if it's 100 and your competitors are at 1,000, that's still going to be problematic. If your competitors are at 10,000 and you're at 1,000, that's still going to be problematic. So make sure that everything else is correct. And if everything else is correct, then the ratings will help. The conversion rate also helps. So if you know your page's conversion and it's very low, you have to optimize that. But that's unrelated to what ratings can impact when it comes to ranks. Andy is saying my brand keywords suddenly stopped burning and not showing enough impressions as well. Previously, burning TTR and CR was good. I tried several things like increasing max CPT bid and increasing budget. So this is a question about Apple Ads, I'm pretty sure, and not ASO organic. And the answer to this is usually what that means is that a competitor came in and really bought the keyword and is really spending money on it. We have a tool that will show you who's advertising on the keyword. Well, let's take a look at it. And if you can give me the keyword that you were working on, or if you want to share, drop it in the chat and hopefully I will get to it. There's a lot of stuff happening in the chat, but I will try to get to it. Let me show you what it looks like just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So if we go here, my mini mice are on display. We have a tool specifically to look up with the keywords, and you can do that right in Keyword Inspector, my favorite tool. So we're still on reaction time, and we can see all the apps that are advertising using Apple Ads for reaction time on the screen. And we can also see the share, and that's really what you want to look at. So it's possible that before, no one really cared about this particular keyword and you were just owning it all for your own, and you would have the highest share. And over time that changed. Maybe a competitor came in and thought this is a great way to grow my user base, and you will see this by looking at their share. And you can change the number of days to look back, and the difference between 180 days, which is when you were probably more popular, and let's say 14 days should give you something to understand. So you see, in the 180 days, we saw a bunch more apps, which means that over time, some apps just stopped doing Apple Ads for this particular keyword. And something like reaction time, I don't know if this is a seasonal thing or if this relates to summer or back to school or something like that. I just don't know the keyword very well, but that's one of the reasons why this could happen. You see 30 days a little bit more, 90 days a little bit more. So take a look for your particular keyword, and then you'll see what this does. And on a side note, we recently launched a new plan with a lower price that gives you access to this. My screen is here. That's why I'm pointing. We have a plan called Boost. Up until now, this used to be available only in the plan called Grow, which was 400 something. I forgot the number. And we introduced a new plan called Boost, which is $250. We're trying to make our pricing as easy for everyone, whether you're an indie developer or a small team or a big company, while also keeping the lights on. So we made a smaller plan that has access to all of the Apple Ads tools. I hope you use it. It's a magnificent plan, and a bunch of developers have already taken advantage of it. If you need any help picking a plan, let me know. You have my email because you probably got an email from me this morning. Okay, continuing. So let's see what else we have. It is a game of mice. Can I use keyword that... Let's see. Okay, so Jay's asking, can I use a keyword that happens to be a company name, but the company has nothing to do with the content of my app? The company is an insurance company, but my app is about photo. Yes, you absolutely can. I think the question is anyone going to search for it? So if someone's going to search for it, then yes, you can try. The one thing is that company might have searches on the App Store using a tool like Explore, actually, that will tell them anytime someone uses their word. And if their word is a trademark or copyrighted, they will go to Apple and say, nope, take it away. And Apple will come to you and say you can't use it in a very polite way in most cases. So depends. I don't really know what the word is, so it's hard for me to make a determination kind of like this. But if you email me, I can look it up for you and see what else is happening, if anyone else is using the word, and go from there. I'm not a legal advisor, I should say. Okay. Continuing. So Apprentice Kid is saying, I'm working on getting top 3 for a keyword with 39 popularity in the US. How many downloads would you say such a keyword can bring? I do not have enough information to actually answer that question because popularity does not correlate to downloads one-to-one. The way that the trend is, it's all very complicated. But realistically, what you should do is look in Keyword Inspector and see what other apps are getting and see which other keywords they have. And if you can build the same set of keywords, you will see what kind of downloads and what kind of revenue they're actually generating in the country. So that's what I would do. Go back into Keyword Inspector that I was showing before, look for a keyword and extract that information from there. There's no direct correlation. And if anyone tells you that they can tell you how many downloads based on popularity, they're probably wrong. The way it's calculated changes all the time, and there's just not a direct way to understand it. Don't ask me how I know, because I tried. Oh, Franklin's nice. He's saying that my stream reminds of tech demos where everything goes wrong. Hopefully not everything. Hopefully just some things go wrong. The noise disappeared. That was my biggest thing this morning, so you can hear me. Okay. We have another question. A question about the recommendations about duplicating keywords. Title, subtitle should have different words than a keyword list. What about the screenshot? Should I use one in the list or others? Okay. So the name, the subtitle, and the keyword list should all have different keywords. Yes, it competes with what Apple is doing now with CPPs. We'll talk about that separately. And I have talked about it in 2 different live streams, 2 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago. But you don't want to duplicate between any of those. When it comes to the screenshots, you do want to duplicate, not only between the name and the screenshots or the subtitle or the keyword list, but also between the keywords. So I found that repeating keywords within the first 3 screenshots actually gives you more of a weight, or gives the keyword more of a weight. That's all in the guide that I wrote that I will link to later that I promised before. So you do want to duplicate, and you do want to make sure you reuse keywords from the name, from the subtitle, from the keyword list in your screenshots. I know this is weird. I've been calling duplication the sin of ASO, the cardinal sin of ASO, for like 5 years now. But when it comes to screenshots, you do want to repeat. So that's important. Ooh, Philip is asking an interesting question. This has nothing to do with ASO. I love this. Please discuss App Store pre-orders and effective strategies. So pre-orders are like a magical tool to help with discovery. I know that sounds weird, but let me explain. So pre-orders allow you to put your app up for sale so people can download it only when it becomes available. What that does, if you can drive enough traffic to that, is that aggregates all of the downloads you would get, let's say, over the first 7 days of your app going live into a single day. So what the algorithm is seeing is instead of, let's say, 5, 10, 100 new downloads a day for 7 days, it's seeing 700 downloads on day one. 700 downloads have the chance to generate way more ratings in a single shot than any other day, and that should cascade over time because not everyone is going to actually use it immediately. And so what you're doing is you're front-loading all of your downloads and all of that performance, and the algorithm sees it. A bunch of big apps have used it, a bunch of apps from all over the place. I wrote about it in my newsletter multiple times. If you're not subscribed, you should. Appfigures.com/newsletter. We'll link to that as well. And that's a great tactic to get visibility. A bunch of apps just shot to the top of the App Store because of it, mostly because they aggregated all those downloads into a single day. And that will give you those category ranks that will boost you up. So if you do any sort of advertising outside of the App Store, or any sort of driving traffic through a newsletter, through social media, through whatever it is that you can get your hands on, you should do that and do pre-orders. Apple and Google both support those. It's such a great strategy. It doesn't really cost anything. It's kind of like luck favors the prepared. That's, I think, the best way to put it. So yes, do that. It's amazing. Thank you for bringing that up, Philip. I should write a guide just about that. I think that's a cool tactic. It's a cool thing you can do. Let's see. A follow-up on that Google Play ranks being stuck issue. So Guillermo is saying that there's no information on the web about Google ranks being stuck, even asking ChatGPT deep research. Yeah, that makes sense. No one writes about these things. We write about them sometimes. It's fleeting. They come and go. It's hard to detect. I think realistically, just let it happen, and in a few days, it will probably go away. I know that's not the most amazing answer coming from a data guy, but knowing Google Play, that's fine. Okay, next, brand new app, Hair Hero. Interesting. Learning ASO for the first time. Oh, cool. Could you help analyzing it? I'm changing title to AI Hair Scanner, Hair Hero, subtitle, Hair Snap, Loss, Health, and Type. Oh, I wish I could bring this on screen. Let's see if I can bring this here. I'm going to lose my screen, but I could potentially have this. See if this will work. Going to do this. That did not work. Do this. Bear with me for like a split second. And then let's see. Can I move my comments to the screen? Yes, I can. No, I can't. Just don't want to come here. Continuing. Almost. Are we doing this? Aha, something happened. Okay, this may or may not work. Step number 1. Step number 2, let's go here. And then switch this. On-air live stuff, that's always been exciting for me. And we're switching to this other switcher. Okay, let's see. This. Upstream key 3. Let's go to PC 1. Aha! It worked. Not ideal, but it will have to do. So the question is specific to this one app. I don't think I can analyze this one app right now, but there are a few things here that are really, really important that I would like to point out. So let's use this as an example to learn what not to do. So there is this inclination of every developer that is optimizing for the first time to push as many new things into the name. And we see this here. So we see hair and scanner and loss and health and type. That's a lot of stuff. That's way too much stuff. And hero and snap and all these things could potentially be very useful for the app. But the algorithm sees this and is like, what is happening? What are you trying to tell me? So thing number 1 that I would do, and this applies to everyone, not just this particular app, do less. Always, always, always do less. What is Hair Hero? What does it do? Does it scan your hair for something? Whatever it does, that's the only one thing you need to focus on. In the past 5-6 years ago, maybe you wanted to introduce as many keywords as possible. Over the last few years, you want to reduce the number of keywords. And I've been talking about focus for a good 4 or 5 years at this point. So that's exactly what I mean. There's too much stuff going on here, like way too much stuff. Way, way, way too much stuff. So instead, what I would do is I would focus. So that's one thing. Thing number 2 is, what does AI have anything to do with hair? If it is, and if this is a part of the app, then okay, and keep it. If you're just shoving AI into it because you want to ride the wave, everyone is riding the wave right now. We're trying to ride the wave. There's so much competition on every AI keyword possible that if you just put this in to try and get visibility, you're going to get the exact opposite. It's going to take up space for something that could work. I don't know if anyone is looking for AI hair scanner. A lot of people are not looking for AI at all, other than the context of ChatGPT or a chatbot. So if it's AI and hair scanner, you know what? I can't look at it now because I changed my screens, but I can almost guarantee it. I'll bet you that if I look for AI hair scanner now in Keyword Inspector, the popularity is not going to be high. So a lesson to really everyone who's watching this, and I've seen this before, we've seen this every time we do a teardown, you don't want to just inject AI into your keyword list just because it's going to have the exact negative effect from what you're thinking. So don't do that. So 1, focus on the most important thing. 2, don't bring AI into it unless you absolutely have to, and unless you know that it works. It's so competitive, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So don't do either of those 2 things. Focus, focus, focus. That's really what I would say on that. And now that I can actually put things on the screen, let's see what else we have. So we're technically over time. I want to stick around for another 5-10 minutes. Thank you for sticking around for all of this. I mean, this has been an interesting live stream. I don't think I've had a live stream with so many technical difficulties in such a long time. Just am so prepared, but the noise was just driving me insane. And I spent way too much time trying to get rid of it. But okay, let's see. We'll take a few more questions. So Jennifer is asking, and we can see it on screen now, does Apple's ranking algorithm favor apps that implement app accessibility features? How about iOS 26 only features? So there's like 2.5 questions in one. Apple favors anything that introduces or that uses its own tools. And Apple also boosts things that use some of its newest tools. I don't know specifically about iOS 26 features yet. We'll have to see as this rolls out and we have more data. But when in-app events came out, an app with an in-app event would fly to the top. When featured in-app purchases happened and you would feature an in-app purchase, apps that do that would flow to the top. And so Apple definitely favors it. And I believe that also when it comes to getting featured, that boosts your chance at getting featured. So yes, if you can, you should use that. And I know it's kind of weird to say, let's use a feature specifically for marketing purposes or for discovery purposes, but discovery is a part of building apps. So there's no reason not to do that. Abdullah is asking, what has more weight in the algorithm, high number of ratings or better retention rate? So on the Apple side of things, higher number of ratings, retention does not play into it. On the Google side, retention does have some impact, but it's mostly about that immediate deletion, that immediate crash. And so number of ratings is a constant. Everything else depends. Faisal is asking, can you please guide from where to learn ASO? Was that a gimme answer? We have a ton of resources. I've done live streams. I've done actual standalone videos. I'm just about to release a video on keyword research that's going to come out in the next few days. But we have a few guides that you will love. I'll link to the entire ASO resources section so you can go through and look through them. There's a bunch of good stuff in there. Let's see. How much more time do we have? A few more moments. See what we can get. Jimmy is asking, I have an app that is listed under Apps Education. I'm planning on switching category to Games Roleplay. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. That's a big switch, and I don't know what the app is. If I had to guess, I would say, do you really have a kids game, an educational app that is also a roleplay game? And how do those fit? And is that for kids or is that for adults? There are so many questions that I can ask, but really what you have to think about is, why are you switching categories? If it's for discovery purposes, Are you going to get better discovery in games roleplay than under apps education? I doubt it. Apps are considerably more competitive. If it's for some other purpose that you have to do, then you have to do it. So I don't know. This is a hard question. If you send me an email with why you're making this or why you're thinking about this change, I can help you ask the right questions and point you at where to get the right data to see if this is a good choice or not. Okay, continuing. Ooh, Leonardo is asking, any thoughts about iOS upcoming Games app? So I looked at the Games app, and it's cool. And if you have used Arcade at all, it kind of feels familiar. I don't know what's going to happen with it. So in my mind, when Apple came out with the Games app, I thought they were going to take games out of the App Store and only put them in the Games app. And that would have been horrible, just horrible for discovery. Now I think that it's going to just be a thing. I don't think it's going to be a big ad because Apple's lack of focus on games, which you can see through Arcade and how Arcade never took off, even though it's like coolish. I've been waiting for Arcade to take off for however long it's been around, but just it's so small, it's so tightly controlled, there's zero visibility into it that no one cares. And I think to some extent the Games app, probably in the next 6 months, no one's going to care about it. The hardcore gamers maybe, or the people who come to the iPhone to play games maybe, but I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people, they play games and they have an iPhone. It's not that they come to the iPhone as a discovery mechanism for games. That's what I think. And that's why you see games that are top grossing or games that are at the top of the charts, most of that is coming from them doing a ton of ads and not directly from users downloading them or users finding them on the store. That's kind of what I'm thinking now with the Games app. We'll see in a few months. We'll see actually during Christmas. Okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we will end. And again, as promised, I will answer all of the questions later on in the comments. Give me about an hour or 2, and I will do that. I don't eat lunch. Okay. Philip is asking, should I just use the main keyword as my app name or app name plus main keyword? Always start with a keyword that is not your app name. The algorithm in left to right languages reads from left to right, and right to left languages reads from right to left. And so it assigns value from right to left or left to right. You want to make sure that you are putting the keywords that are most important for discovery from left to right. That's the idea. So keyword and then app name, that's how I would go about it because I always want to build a brand. Keyword alone, you probably won't be able to get unless your keyword is something no one is searching for. Otherwise, someone has probably taken it or squatted it over the last however many years the App Store has been open. Okay, one more. Faisal is asking another question that is leading me to a tool. Hi, I'm a mobile developer, want to launch my app. Can you tell me how I can do research to get ideas for app? I absolutely can. We have a tool called Explore, and Explore, the idea behind it, it's a search engine for apps with a ton of additional filters so you can see what's working and what's not working. You can see how much money apps are making. You can see how that changed over time. We also have reports built on it. If you go to the market report section in the left-hand side menu on the site on Appfigures, you will find reports that tell you what's trending right now, what's dropping, what's growing fast, what's losing momentum. So there are a lot of ways to see this using Explore and using those additional reports that we created on top of Explore. I would highly recommend you seeing this. If you're not sure where to begin, send me an email and I'll point you in the right direction. I should write a guide about that. Maybe I am. Okay, one last one because I'm having fun. Leonardo is asking, does using keywords in Apple search ads, Apple ads, that are also in the metadata reduce your cost per tap? No, they don't. There's no difference. There's no correlation between what you do for paid and what you do for free. But what you do in your paid keywords gains relevance from what you have in your metadata. So if you don't have a keyword in your metadata and just throw it into Apple ads, you may not see any sort of taps on it at all, any sort of impressions, mostly because Apple will deem it as irrelevant, which would not really increase your price, but it will increase it exponentially because now you're fighting with apps that are relevant. So in a sense, yes, it could reduce your cost per tap, but it's not direct. It's not because it's in there. It's because of the relationship and the relevance. Okay, one last one. Let's see. Let's see. I get some interesting things about Appfigures in there. I want to bring them up, but I would much rather answer a question. I can then answer those later. Wow, a lot of questions about Appfigures. So, okay, let me take some questions about Appfigures because I feel like that's a good forum to do this. Jan is asking, would you consider adding a plan only for indies with a max annual income with all features for like $50? So we thought about this. The only thing is, just like you are an indie, we're also technically indie. We have not taken investment. We are not planning on it. Everything we do comes from our revenue. So if we do add a plan that gives away too much, and intelligence, unfortunately, is the kind of thing that costs a lot to get, all of the work that we do on understanding how this works and putting that out there, that is incredibly expensive. If we do that, we're going to be RX. So we have to play a very interesting balancing act between giving you the best plan that we can, but also keeping the lights on without having to take investment, which would lead us in ways that in the past our competitors have taken and really has ruined their companies. So if we can, we will in the future. We don't have a plan to do that. We do have plans to make our plans as easy to consume as possible. So we don't require any sort of annual commitment. We just released Boost, which is an amazing plan that has all of the discovery tools you need minus the app intelligence, but with competitor information for $250. We don't require any crazy talk to sales or anything like that. Buy it once, use it, abuse it for a month. We don't have many limits on what you're allowed to do, how many keyword lookups and all that stuff. Like use it, and then downgrade after a month. We're fully okay with that. So that's how we are seeing our plans as happening. Okay. Cigar is saying, I compared Appfigures versus Astro, App Radar, and all of the keyword popularity was the same. That's because it's coming from Apple. But I found that Astro was mainly underestimating, and AF versus App Radar was a near. Now I'm on an AF plan. Thanks. You're welcome. We do a lot of work to make sure that our numbers make sense. In our minds, we have our bar is, does it make sense or not, and is it useful? If it's not useful, we're not going to put it out there. We're not going to put out a bad number. We're only going to put out good numbers, and that's why in some cases we have not put out data. And people do email me almost at least multiple times a week and saying, how can I get the number of downloads per keyword, for example? There's just no good way to do that. So I can give you data that no one can corroborate, and you might say, okay, this makes sense, but I know it isn't, so I'm not going to put it out there. And that's how we get to accuracy. Data accuracy is incredibly important for us. Vincenzo is asking, how are you better than your competitors? A very open-ended question that I can answer with, take a look. We have a free trial. See the quality of our tools. See the amount of information they give you, not just make you go out and understand on your own. And you'll see why this is the best platform. Okay. Last one. Cigars is also adding that he added a CPP and oh wow. So Cigar added a CPP, a custom product page, and his conversion rate went from 7% to 10%. That's quite amazing. And I think you probably have even more to go. Just think about it. On 100 downloads, you're getting a lot more downloads. So 3 more downloads. On 1,000, that's 30. That's great. Alrighty. I believe that's all the time I have. I would like to stay here and talk for a while, but I'm going to do this again. Clearly, taking questions is the way to go. So in a few weeks, we're going to do another live stream. I'm going to be at a conference, so I'm not sure if that's going to be live or a video. I'm going to be at a conference. I'm going to be giving the keynote presentation here in New York City. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to do video. We're going to have video at our booth, and we're going to talk to people. So we'll see if that's live or if that's recorded. I'll be back here in about a month with a guest. A lot more going on. Hopefully no noise and no technical difficulties. We'll see how that goes. In any case, I'm going to go back to answering all those questions in just a little bit. If you have any other question, find me on X or on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'm always around to help, even if it takes a little bit. That's all I have for you today. I will see you in a few weeks.